Rest in peace, Malcolm-Jamal Warner. Condolences to his family, all of his peers, the acting community, and frankly, the hip hop community as well, because we all took a loss. I don't know if people understand how important a vehicle like The Cosby Show was. Let's start with that. It was, they say representation is important. If this was one of the best examples of that. In a time when you could barely get no black people on TV, on the radio, there just was no representation. Everything that we had to look up to didn't look like us. So, it had, till the day, it still has that effect on people where they want to cross over. But The Cosby Show was one of the first shows that, it just broke through that mold. It threw away those stereotypes. You know, Theo's father was a doctor. His mom was a lawyer. Right, that was how it went, right? Yeah. It was just dope. It was a beautiful thing to see. You know what I'm saying? Theo Huxtable had an effect on me personally. Well, Malcolm-Jamal Warner had an effect on me personally because a lot of y'all may know, most of y'all, some of y'all may not, whatever. It's Googleable. My name is actually Jamal. Look on the back of all that, my album covers, you'll see it. Or some of them anyway. I didn't like my name as a child. You know what I mean? Growing up, I wasn't digging the name. As a kid, you want to fit in. You're not too concerned with standing out when you're young. And, in school, let's say all of the mics were cool. All of the Robs was, they was kind of hardcore, kind of tough. All of the Derricks, with respect to all my homies named Derek, I know niggas is tough now, but when we was kids, all of the Derricks was kind of soft. There were no Jamals, so I didn't feel, and the name felt odd. I had never heard it before, right? I didn't hear it anywhere. And there was one other kid named Jamal, and he wasn't cool at all, right? Now, I wasn't cool, really. I was half cool, you understand what I'm saying? But he was way less cool than me. You know what I'm saying? Like he was a typical nerd. Like I was a nerd. You know what I'm saying? I was just a nerd that would fight you. You know what I'm saying? That's really the only difference, right? But, he was a typical glasses, that kind of nerd. He used to do all kind of strange stuff and all of that. Needless to say, that didn't make me feel any better about my name. And we didn't get along. I was mean to Jamal when we was kids. I mean, that wasn't right, but I was. But then they split me and Jamal up around the 5th or 6th grade or whatever. Here comes the Cosby Show like a year or two later, and all of a sudden I feel a little bit better about my name. Because Theo's name was Malcolm-Jamal. I mean, it was only one guy. Well, it was Bill, and the rest of the cast were women, with the exception of Theo, Malcolm-Jamal Warner. So it was like if you were a male, if you were a young boy and a fan of that show, of course you gravitated to Theo. And he famous. You understand what I'm saying? Theo's on TV and his real name is Jamal. That made me feel a little bit better. Real talk. So yeah, I just, again, I want to say how important representation is. Like, I still don't go by my, my government name and all of that, but You know, I have a certain love for it. You know, I googled it. I know what it mean. It mean handsome. I gotta, you know what I'm saying? It's a way more positive feeling attached to it. It's not this thing that I don't like. Just don't call me that. It's for special people. A certain kind of special. But yeah. Malcolm showed up in wild hip hop videos. You know what I'm saying? Well, I don't know if I could say wild, but he showed up in some. You know what I mean? And I always felt like that was important as well. Like being a hip hopper, being a citizen, a card carrying, torch bearing member of the hip hop community. And at the age, like I said, I'm not no spring chicken. I'm you know what I mean. I remember when hip hop wasn't on the radio. I remember when our parents was talking about hip hop wasn't going to be around tomorrow. You know what I mean? So, you know, in that era, other other genres of entertainment, whether you know, across the board, most of them shunned hip hop. They didn't take it serious. So for somebody from whenever somebody from outside the lane steps in the lane and co-signs it, shouts it out, it's a big deal. You know what I mean? Like it's like that in all cultures because you know when you cross market, like that's what makes cross marketing a dope thing. It makes it, you know, like people pay for that kind of thing. You understand what I'm saying? Like to for you to lend your audience to something else. It's a big deal, and we loved him for that. You know, among other things. Even though he was most famous for his role as Theo on the Cosby Show, I don't think I ever seen son in anything that painted black people or himself in a negative light. If you know of one, put it in the comments. I don't think so though. He also actually shouted me out one time on IG, and that, my friends, was a very I was gassed. It was a big deal. So, you know, once again, I just want to say rest in peace to him. Condolences to his fam, to you, to our community. You know what I mean? We lost one of our more positive images because a lot of the images we get these days ain't that. It's further into the left, you know, further into to the negative. We get more and more negative images. Like all of the things that we fought for hip hop about, like we fought, like when hip hop was growing, they always talked about it being, or they talked about all of these negative things that, you know, these things that we was like, we are not that. But now hip hop kind of is that, you know. So our positive images, in my opinion, shined even brighter under these circumstances. And to lose one like him, you know, such a young age, tragic circumstances, it's hurtful. And, you know, all of the love and light to the people who were really close to him. And, you know, yeah. Salutations. Rock on, rock on.